My face tastes like chocolate sauce. This is Corey, and this is the Anthem Podcast.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's Rob. Welcome to episode 193 of the Anthem Podcast, coming to you live from the hashtag OTA LA studios, high above the 110 freeway in beautiful downtown Los Angeles, California. It is 8:57 p.m. Pacific. That makes it 11:57 p.m. Eastern, and Anthem is live from coast to coast.
For an OTA After Dark.
Exactly.
Hashtag OTA After Dark.
And of course, we have a special guest with us. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see him sitting right here to my right, to Corey's left. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. This is Roberto.
And if you've listened to the podcast before, you've heard Roberto join us before, and he's here again, joining us once again.
Or you've heard you talk about me.
We have talked about you as well.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So Roberto's going to be joining us for the show, for the entirety of the show, but we are still here in LA, as you can see behind us.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, look at that.
There you go.
There's some Wilshire Grand for you.
Yeah, all right.
Where's the traffic?
It's behind you.
Yeah, it's behind me. Okay, I'm covering up the traffic.
But thank you guys for
I
joining us.
wish there was another way to cover up the traffic.
Thank you guys for joining us this week. Of course, you can find us on all your social networks at The Anthem. That's on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. If you want to be a part of the show, you can make sure and catch us live at youtube.com/OTheAnthem/live. We generally broadcast on the weekends, but this week we have a special 3-show week coming to you as we get ready for the Christmas holiday. So you want to go onto YouTube and check out your notifications. There's going to be a little bell at the very top of the Anthem page. Click that bell and make sure the notifications are turned on so you find out every time the Anthem Podcast goes live, and you can join us for every single episode. And of course, you want to be part of the show, join us in the live chat. Just comment in the chat we are watching, or give us a call or a text to the listener line, 443-219-7595.
443-219-7595.
That's right.
443-219-7995.
Not that last one. Not the last one.
There we go.
But yeah, so you can join us and be part of the show at any time. And of course, we welcome all your comments. You can also email Corey at otheanthem.com to get those comments and questions.
Do you want to give it to us in Espanol?
Okay, give it in español. Okay. Pueden llamarnos al 443-219-7595.
Way smoother than in English.
All right.
English is a second language. Anyway, so we got a lot to get to this week, so let's jump right in. A topic that Corey has absolutely no interest in, but that Roberto and I thoroughly enjoy.
Unbelievable.
Yes. That's this Saturday. Roberto and I made a special trip out to go get crepes at Crepes de Paris, which was delicious.
And Mexican, too.
Oh, and Mexican, yes. It's
that's a fun fact. Everybody that works at that place is Mexican. And
from
speaks
northern
Spanish.
Mexico.
Yeah.
But the crepes were delicious. And by the way, we saw Star Wars.
Everyone's gone
There you
to this crepe place. I need to see what it's all
It's
about.
literally right around the corner from
I
your
know.
place.
I just
understand.
Have you not been there yet?
No, I haven't,
Oh,
because
God,
Rachel
okay.
said we're gonna have to go together at some point, and I
Yes.
was just like, all right, well, let's go some weekend.
Yeah.
And then we haven't done it.
So
This is how it is. Like, this is gonna be my new thing with the Movie Pass too.
Yeah.
Where like, if you tell me to go to a place and we don't go within a week, then I'm just gonna go without you.
You should go. I think
you
it's
should.
only open on the weekends, though.
No, I think they're
Is
open.
it every day?
Yeah,
No,
I
they're
think so.
open. I see like one person in there milling about when I'm going to get lunch elsewhere.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
Well, it actually got pretty busy when we were there.
Yeah, for that little bit, probably because everybody was getting out of Star Wars like we were, and they were coming up there to see it. So Roberto and I went on Saturday morning to check out Star Wars. I will say, just for a brief moment,
Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars.
we're going to try not to really reveal any spoilers, but be very careful because we are going to talk a little bit about the movie right at the bat, off the bat here. One thing I will say is, you've seen the previous Star Wars.
Yes.
I really liked Rian Johnson's take on
Yes.
Star Wars.
Yes, indeed.
I'm a big fan of his work. Brick, Looper, all of these stories I'm a huge fan of. Yeah, I know. I'm a huge fan of all of these stories. And I think he did a great job with Star Wars Episode 8. And I'm a little upset that we're going back to J.J. Abrams. Well, not back to, but to
Although
J.J. Abrams.
we did talk about it, we were kind of hoping that maybe since the movie seems to be doing really well, and apparently it's going to do pretty well,
Yeah.
they might actually ask him to come back.
It might do pretty well. You mean like in the financial market?
In the
market?
finance-
So wait, so
It might have a pretty big opening weekend.
Oh, so yeah, you found a story.
Oh, yes.
You found a story that said that it has the second biggest opening.
Second biggest opening in the U.S.
Right.
In the opening weekend. And actually, the number one spot goes to The Force Awakens, the
Right.
first episode of the new saga of Star Wars. But it's right underneath. I think it was $240 versus $220 million or something for the opening weekend.
Do we know what the total budget of Star Wars was?
No.
Or can we take a guess? Like, let's take a guess quickly. I'm gonna say somewhere in the
Like
area.
the production budget, or
Well, no,
like
production
production
and
with
A&P.
P&E?
P&E, sorry,
Yeah.
P&E. What did I say? A&P?
A&P, yeah.
A&P.
That's the same thing, right?
I mean,
Is A&P?
A&P, P&A.
A&P may be a music term. Maybe I'm getting that confused with my.
That
other
might
word.
be. That might be. The
So
case.
yeah, so with nonetheless, I'm gonna guess at 350 million all in on everything.
I was actually
Roberto.
going to go a little bit higher. I was
Okay.
going to go close to the 500.
500
area.
million all
Well, I
in.
mean, 450, something like that. That would be my guess.
I will basically cut that in half and say like around 400.
As he goes to the numbers, and I'm sure that wasn't cheating at all.
Oh, wow.
200
was it?
million. Wow.
200 million.
Oh my! Well, that's what happens when you have a cast that signs for 3 movies. And they're all unknowns at the beginning. And Mark Hamill's just like, "What? You want me to come out of my house? Okay, great. Wait for like Joker
To be fair, I might. The marketing budget might add an extra 200 million to it right there.
I see.
Because
I
it
don't
feels
think
like
so.
it's everywhere.
I don't think so. I see it on Amazon. I've seen no buses. I've seen no billboards.
Yeah,
I think
mean,
part
there's
of my.
definitely-
I think part of my like calculation into it, even
Yeah.
though we were saying production budget, was that it's going to be. They're going to try and milk a lot of things into the production budget.
But keep in mind, something we'll get to in a little bit, the monstrosity that is Disney, a lot of that you get reduced fee on the ad budget. So
And it's definitely not going to be nowhere near close to what Justice League spent in marketing.
Yeah.
Not even close.
they've already cleared.
Yeah, and
they've
already
cleared
made
that.
more than Justice
Yeah.
League.
So 250 opening weekend.
Yeah.
Yes. No,
That-
220.
220.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they've already cleared their production budget in the first weekend.
You know,
And
it's
first
so
weekend.
it's so funny. In the last couple of weeks, I like to fall asleep to things I've seen before that I know.
Right.
That way, I don't have to feel like I pay attention to it. I can just sort of listen to it, and it's,
Like I've
it's
seen this before. I know.
yeah, it's like a pet when you leave the TV on when the owner leaves, so it feels like people are around.
Yeah, yeah.
That's me falling asleep. Anyway, I was watching Entourage not too long ago, and I remember them
I like
going
how you
back
feel
and
like
forth.
You have to justify that. Like I wouldn't normally
No,
watch.
I was
Entourage.
just saying. I was watching Entourage.
Yeah.
I did it again. This is like the third time I've watched Entourage this year, I think.
That's
But
maybe
anyway,
Parks and Recreation.
I was watching it, and they were talking about whether or not they take out Spider-Man for the #1 box office weekend. It was like 114 million, and I was just like, "Whew, how times have changed."
Oh, yes.
And I think Aquaman did right with a grand total of 120 or something like that.
It was like 117 or
Wait,
something.
The Aquaman in Entourage when Vin
Yeah.
Chase was playing Aquaman.
Yeah.
But they were
I like it too, where they probably like when they were coming up with a big movie that he could star in.
Yeah.
Like Warner Brothers was probably just like, well, we're never gonna make a fucking Aquaman movie.
Anyways.
let him do that. That's
Batman.
fine. Yeah, that'll never ever come up again. Don't worry about it.
Come in, Jason Momoa.
And again,
We're never actually gonna get to that point, right? Like we're,
No,
we're gonna
actually, they've announced it already.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying, like,
But again,
the
they
studio
weren't
at the
picturing
time when
in
they were making
2003.
Entourage, yeah,
2003, they were like,
Wow,
we're never going to make
2003.
Entourage. Yeah. Like, right?
something like that, yeah.
Because they took off 2 years before they made the Entourage movie.
And it was on for like 8 years.
Yeah.
So the first Spider-Man, you're saying the first Spider-Man made 114?
Something like that,
I'm
yeah.
kind of curious to know what Homecoming, the new one, made.
Well, keep in mind, though, that Homecoming had a much smaller budget, too, because the special effects that they used in the first Spider-Man were like cutting edge
At the
special
time.
effects. Yeah. Yeah.
With the swinging mannequin.
The swinging
With the
man.
sing-
With the hair blowing the
Yeah, with
wrong
the hair
way, which I
blowing
never
the wrong
noticed
way.
before.
Yeah.
But
If you don't know what we're talking about, look up the Spider-Man scene where he's swinging with Mary Jane and the hair is blowing in the wrong direction.
Spider-Man
Yeah.
Homecoming's opening weekend was 117.27.503.
so it beat the original
Yeah,
Spider-Man.
the original. It's not,
But
but
that
that
was-
as I thought, though.
That was a disappointing opening for them, though. That was them saying, like, I guess it's all right, but we beat the first Spider-Man's record-breaking opening, and that's just okay. But I guess keep in mind ticket prices are way higher now, so that means less tickets actually sold to hit that number. So I guess that's part of it.
Anyways,
Yeah, and the
going
opening
back,
weekend for the original Spider-Man was 116. So,
Went 114 million,
Yeah.
and that was the largest one up to that point.
right.
Which beat Titanic's opening
And
weekend.
its production budget was 139.
Good God. But there you go again. Nobody in that movie was really known. Tobey Maguire was kind of like a somewhat
Kirsten
known.
Dunst.
Actually,
Kirsten Dunst.
I was actually looking at an interview the other day of Daisy Ridley. What is it?
Yes,
Ridley?
Daisy Ridley.
So the girl who plays the main character in the new
Right.
Star Wars saga.
The girl who plays
And she was in an interview with Graham Norton, and she was talking about when she got cast, when she was going into the theater to see a play, and she gets a call from...
And the budget for Homecoming was 175, by the way. So it was an extra 26 million.
Less than his production.
Yes.
No, it was 149 for the original Spider-Man.
Oh, I mean, but Homecoming made less.
No, it made
Homecoming
more.
didn't hit his production budget.
No, Homecoming made less than the production.
So Homecoming cost 175
And it
Made
made
117.
100.
and made 117. It's opening weekend.
Right.
Spider-Man, the original one, cost 149 and made 114.
Right.
Okay.
In $2,002.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was looking at the interview, and she was going into the theater when she gets a call, and it's like, oh, this is J.J. Abrams. So she's like, I can do this. Yes, you got. And he was just like, yeah, you're in. I'm just calling to let you know we're starting to shoot this. And she had to go into the play for like 3 hours. She was like, this is a long ass play.
Yeah.
And she had to go into the play for like 3 hours before she could even talk about it or
Yeah.
let anybody know that she was casting.
That's when you like sit down next to the person and you're like, I'm going to be in Star Wars.
Yeah.
I don't know
just
you.
so you know, yeah.
I'm going to be in Star Wars. If you want
Hey,
my autograph.
hey, I hope that's gonna happen to us one day.
Maybe
we're gonna
someday.
be, we're gonna be walking into the movie theater or something, and movie pass, and then I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna be in Transformers 7.
And now then Corey will never talk to you again.
Yeah,
after
Corey
that.
will never talk to me.
But
Yo, I'll be like, yo, try and talk him out of one big action scene. And just give me the money.
yeah. So anyway, going back to Star Wars.
Just talk about one big action scene, and then I'll call up like Universal and just be like, hey, so yeah, I know you're short $76,000 on your new Star Wars. Just wondering if I could have that for a movie. I know you got it. I know you got it. You were planning on spending it, so don't tell me you don't have it.
I've explained to people, a lot of people have asked me what I thought about Star Wars. And I've had to explain over and over the Fast and the Furious rule that
Yeah.
Corey and I developed, which might, I think, have originated as the Michael Bay or J.J. Abrams rule, which is you go into a movie and you basically, the Fast and Furious rule is you go in expecting a certain thing. Does that movie give you what you've expected?
Does it give you the pulse-pounding excitement, regardless of plot or acting?
No.
That's in the Furies.
No, the Fast and the Furious rule is just basically, I'm going into Fast and the Furious. I have some expectations. There's going to be fancy cars.
Mm-hmm.
There will be racing at some point.
Well, the last few.
Right. But there is going to be an explosion, a huge explosion. And if I've seen the previous one, it's got to be bigger and better than the one before.
Yeah.
So-
Basically, they have to figure out a crazier stunt with cars.
Yes.
Than they did before.
Yes. And was not disappointed. I didn't see 7, but I did see 8. No, wait. I didn't
Furious
see
8,
6,
yeah.
but I
Or
saw...
Fate of the Furious.
Fate of the Furious.
Yeah.
Where they jumped between the two buildings in
No,
Dubai.
no,
That was 7.
that was 6.
Was that 6? Whichever one. I didn't
Yeah.
see the one before that. But I know that there was nothing as crazy as defying physics and jumping cars
Yeah.
between two buildings. So I'm satisfied.
In Dubai.
Yeah.
I'm
And then
satisfied.
apparently not
the-
getting arrested or nobody was
Nothing.
there. Yeah.
At the Burj Khalifa or whatever it
Yes,
was.
but you've stepped your game up. Okay, great. You have succeeded in the Fast and the Furious rule. I'm satisfied. So when going into Star Wars, I have certain expectations. Is there going to be a space battle between X-Wings and TIE fighters?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry to spoil this for you guys. Check. Yes, they did that. Is there going to be some sort of weird romance story? Check.
Okay.
Who? You're going to have to see the movie to find out. But is there a general, like, multi-planet based, we see different environments and we, the result of being in these environments is, it makes things difficult for people. Is there more than one moment where a character goes, we need to enter something?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens twice, which basically means there's 2 movies compacted into one, because there are 2 direct things. We have to do this, and then once they solve that problem, then it's like, oh, well, we also need to do this.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit, what it is, what it is. But it satisfies the Fast and the Furious test. It gave me exactly what I expected going in.
I argue that the Fast and the Furious test was not about whether or not something delivered on the things that you necessarily wanted.
Right.
But it was more of a test.
They did it or not.
No, it's like Fast and the Furious is not going to be confused with Gone with the Wind. But
True.
could you want to experience something like Fast and the Furious over something like Gone with the Wind? Oh yeah, absolutely. Every once in a while you just need to see things blow up.
Yeah.
So, if you're in that mood and you really want to see things blow up, Gone with the Wind is not the movie for you.
Yes.
You'd want to go see Fast and the Furious.
Right.
So in adjusted terms with like other movies like it, where does Fast and the Furious stand up against, Speed or any other movie that is essentially like no real plot, just blowing things up, or Transformers or whatever?
For me, though, Fast and Furious test is a minimum. Did you give me what I expected going in?
Right.
Now, if you went in expecting Gone with the Wind, Too Fast and the Furious, you're going to have a bad time. Like, it's about minimum expectations.
But I mean, like with the new Star Wars, I was asking you, does it stand up like as a film on its own against films, like great films in history?
So, and we were talking about how Empire is sometimes listed among
some people will say, some people will say it's a certain Star Wars movie is their favorite.
Yes.
But you will also get people say like, oh no, technically it's like a film work. It's one of the 20 best films ever made or the 30 best films ever made or whatever number people attribute to it.
Yeah.
But it's one of the Star Wars, usually one of the original 3 in the canon.
Yeah.
But I was basically looking to see if does it just stand on its own as like a Star Wars movie, or does it stand alone as an epic film on its own right?
But let's ask a third person. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, for me, I would say it could stand alone as a really well done epic movie just on its own, regardless of the Star Wars saga.
Right.
One of the things I personally like, and I think we talked about this, is the fact that, and again, not trying to spoil anything.
No spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers. But there definitely was, you could feel the difference with Rian Johnson as the director in the way he did things. One of the things that I really liked about it is the payoff with a lot of the main characters, a lot of the characters that we've known and loved for whoever's a Star Wars fan. And there was a lot of payoff with a lot of the different characters. Not just usually in the Star Wars films, you get the payoff for one of the characters, or you sort of get the arch of one of the characters. And this film just went through a lot of different characters, and we saw a lot of arches and a lot of payoff of different characters. So even if you were new, which is your case, if you were to go to the Star Wars movie, I'm sure you would enjoy it just for what it is, regardless of whether or not. I mean, there are certain things that, of course, you would probably need to know in order to enjoy it more. But I certainly would think that even if you're not a Star Wars fan, you would enjoy the film altogether.
I think there are things that would confuse you if you weren't a Star Wars fan.
Right.
But not necessarily be bad and not necessarily mess with your ability to enjoy it. You just be like, so wait, what just happened? Because it's happened in the universe before.
So they have a shorthand.
So there's a shorthand amongst that. I don't want to spoil it.
Well, okay. How about this? Let's just break away from
when someone's in blue light. It means something,
right?
Yeah.
And unless you know the Star Wars shorthand, you don't know what that is. But
although one thing that I found kind of interesting, and I saw online a video, they literally made a video to try to explain. I don't know if you remember again, not giving anything away, but it's not an important thing, but you remember the dice?
Yes.
There's dice that sort of like plays not a role, but it plays something within the film. And there were actually a lot of people, Star Wars fans, who didn't really get what that was about.
Right.
So they made a bunch of videos explaining the meaning of
from
that,
back to the first.
Yes,
or
exactly.
the first try.
Yeah, the first trilogy.
But so I agree. I think that it stands on its own. I love Rian Johnson's take on it. Just some of the things that he does that the bigger directors, the Abrams, the Snyders, the Michael Bays don't do. The attention to detail, and I keep pointing out the very last scene of the movie, which has nothing to do with the plot itself. It's just a boy in a stable looking at the stars, and that scene, I'm just like, this is what I love about Rian Johnson, that he brings you into a moment, and this has nothing to do with anything. It's completely outside the plot, but it makes you like feel something in that moment. And I think that the bigger directors miss out on that. They're like, you know what? Let's cut that movie and instead let's blow something up right here. Yeah. And
the twists and turns were definitely one of the things that a lot of people are praising about Rian Johnson, is the fact that, and if you've seen, because you didn't see any of the trailers before you saw the movie, right?
I cut myself off completely.
Yeah, completely.
And in the theater, when they played the Avengers, or the
Avengers.
The Avengers.
War, yeah.
I literally covered my eyes, I covered my ears, I was humming, so I got nothing from it except for the music, which was pretty epic. So,
but even if you
got a lot of tutus.
Yes, yeah, that's basically it. And then I false flagged the pull down, and Roberto had to be like, no, not yet, because the music dies, and I'm like, okay, that must be it. Nope, there's
But no, what I was going to say is that even if you have seen the trailers, there are still plenty of twists and turns in the movie itself that you don't really see in the trailers. So, I mean, it's definitely an experience. Just go see it.
Right.
If you like Star Wars, or even if you
Well,
don't
real
like
quick,
Star Wars.
before we move on, just quick answer from both of you. On a scale from 1 to 10, where do you rank it?
Amongst Star Wars movies or all movies?
Yeah.
Just in general, like as a film on its own.
I'd probably give it an 8.
I'm probably 8.5.
Okay.
And I will say there's been
So a solid C.
Oh, solid B.
No, a solid C. Like see it.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah,
See
okay.
it. S-E-E,
Yeah.
yes. A solid C, go see it. And I have to say that we were talking about on Friday night before we went about how the tomato score was so low. Is that where you...
No, I was
it's
going to
okay.
say something else. But
So like I have heard the bitching amongst the Star Wars fans, and this is what I realized today after taking in even more of those comments on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan Johnson and the writers, but probably more specifically Ryan Johnson, because he had a big hand in the guiding of the story. Like, we need to get it to here, so get us there. They didn't do what Star Wars fans wanted. They told the story that they wanted to tell, not the story that we wanted them to tell.
Yeah.
And because of that, people are upset. And every comment I read was like, how dare they do this? How dare they not do that? And I'm like, so wait, you're not upset that the movie is a bad movie. You're not even saying that you didn't like the movie. What you're saying is they didn't do what you expected or what you wanted, and therefore you don't like it. Guys, this is how spoiled we've become in the movie theater. Like, things are so predictable that you expect it to be exactly what you want, and when it's not, you rate it bad. When I go in there and it surprises me and I say, I didn't see any of that coming, great, fantastic. That makes it better for me.
Yeah.
I hate when 3 or 4 minutes into a movie, I'm like, you know what? I know where this is going, and that's going to happen, and then this, and then that. And I think
figure most of it out.
Yeah, Corey and I have talked on the podcast before about how once you start writing movies and like you educate yourself a little bit about story beats and like how things progress, it's easy. Because once you see like that first turn from the first act into the second act, then you're like, all right, so I know how this guy's coming into play. They're following the formula pretty well.
Yeah.
Star Wars does not follow the formula, especially not a trilogy formula, because things that you're expecting to pay off don't pay off. There's surprises, there's twists, and storylines go completely different directions.
Actually, one of the things that we talked about when we exited the movie is I told you, like, I was kind of... At the end of the movie, I was kind of thinking, like, whoa, like, how are they going to... Because they already announced that they're going to make another trilogy.
Yeah.
That's going to take away from the Skywalker saga. Right. So they're going to basically move away from the characters that we know.
Yeah.
And just looking at the end of this movie, I was just kind of asking myself, like, whoa, like, what else can they bring on the third installment of this saga that is not going to be completely different from what we've seen? Like, how are they going to bring this to a conclusion where they can basically start off?
See, and so I was discussing that with some of my people at work today, and apparently the rumor is that Ryan Johnson is doing a Knights of the Old Republic trilogy. So it's going back to the first Republic in Star Wars and away from the current. So like they're ending the Skywalker saga by going before any of the Skywalkers were born.
Oh, okay.
Back when the first time a prophecy was made about someone coming and uniting the Force. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Wait,
but-
before we
talked about
move
Star
on,
Wars.
though,
No, we've
just-
been talking about Star Wars for 30 minutes, so let's move on.
No,
I just
it's
want
not
to
been
tease.
30
I just want to tease because
Yeah.
I want you to tease about what we were discussing. What
Okay,
you're,
yes.
Yes. Okay,
So
you know
this
what I'm
week,
talking about. All
this
right.
week, my Patreon subscribers are going to get a special treat, and it'll be available to the public at some point after that. But everyone should look for this video forthcoming. I realized on the walk back that I recognized a lot of the things that were happening in The Last Jedi and then relating them back to The Force Awakens. And I realized that I believe George Lucas was writing Star Wars based on the Iranian Revolution from the 1950s into the 1970s. And I'm going to put together some empirical evidence, and I'm going to prove that. And you'll be able to see that video coming up this week. This week for my Patreon subscribers, and at some point later for everyone else.
If any of the listeners have any connection to George Lucas, please let him know.
I would love to discuss with him after I lay out my argument for why he must have been watching news and seen stuff about Iran and been like, hey, this seems like a good story basis, and then went and ran with it. So that'll be up this week, so you guys can check that out on my YouTube page. So make sure you look for that.
Yeah.
So On other Star Wars related news, big story this week, Disney has officially made a bid to buy Fox.
Yeah.
Not all of Fox.
Not all of Fox.
Yeah, so they're leaving Fox News, which I mean you would.
Yeah,
Listen.
they already have ABC. I think they're okay.
Oh, I didn't mean that. I just mean if you could avoid the cesspool area of a property,
Yeah.
you buy everything but that.
Yeah, I'd like to buy everything except for the living room that's sunken into the basement.
Right, yeah. Or I'd like to buy everything except for, the swamp out back.
Right.
You can keep that.
The literal swamp.
Yes.
Here's my question. Now that we're getting into this subject, do you think that Disney's actually in a year? Because I saw a post on 9gag or something where it was basically a guy just saying like, "Oh, in 2019, Disney's going to try to buy something else." Do you actually think Disney is planning on acquiring most of the major?
No. They can't afford all of them.
They can't do that, and more
They
importantly,
can't afford it now.
All they wanted.
There's not enough. Amazon couldn't afford to buy all the studios right now. I mean, like it's just
the major motivation is if they were going to buy another studio, because let's say they just were saying we're going to buy another studio. Fox owns properties that they want to get back anyway. So there's check one. Mm-hmm. Check two is they have proven streaming content. FXX, Fox's second cable network, is essentially streaming movies and television, and Disney looks at that and says, hey, if we took it off of cable and put it on our streaming network, they're getting decent ratings on a second-rate cable network. We can put that on streaming and include it in your $9.99 a month, and that'll get some people in. I mean, really what we're looking at is Fox movies and The Simpsons and Family Guy and all of Seth MacFarlane's stuff, but all that's available for streaming.
Plus, for all of you who don't know, Disney is actually planning on having their own streaming service. So this was part of their plan to begin or acquire major streaming.
Yes, they're trying to acquire. Star Wars was the first part of this.
Yeah,
I mean you could
Marvel was the first.
Yeah, Marvel.
Well, yeah. I mean you could say that. Even going back, like ESPN was a part of this too, in the long scheme thing of things. But they want to be able to have more entertainment streams than any other platform.
Yeah.
So the Disney version of Netflix will be all the Disney properties, all the Disney movies, all the Marvel movies, all the Fox movies, all the Fox TV shows.
Yep.
Star Wars movies. I mean, like it's just absurd the amount of content that'll be on there.
And I mean, literally,
and probably new and original stuff as well that'll come up much like Netflix does with House of Cards or Stranger Things.
You will see a fast version of Netflix where at first, the first year or two, it will just be stuff that you've already seen before that's streamable, and then the original content will start coming out. But it'll come down to the point that we're grandfathered in, at least I'm grandfathered into the $9.99 a month Netflix plan, so I get unlimited streaming. I think now it's like $15 a month, but when I got
you're about to get the email saying you're going up.
Yeah, it's going to go up, especially after what just happened. But we'll talk about it.
But in the end, what Disney wants to do is to say, hey, if you're willing to pay $10 a month for Netflix, you're gonna have to pay $10 a month to get Disney and Fox programming. Formerly Fox, now all Disney programming.
Did they remove all of their content from Netflix already, or not?
There's some things that are still on there because they had an agreement that extends until
2018.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's anything that has expired is off, but anything that's still on there is still on there.
Yeah, because I think some of the newer,
I mean, like Avengers is on there.
Or
like Civil War,
like Beauty and the Beast, and some of the newer ones, basically. But I haven't seen any of the old Disney movies.
Because they were all.
And I think there's Star Wars on there. Some Star Wars movies.
Oh, Rogue One, Rogue One is there.
But I think that's also part of a calculation that a lot of these companies have, which is why don't we give the old movie, like the one...
some play.
Yeah, well, if we're coming out with the new Fast and the Furious movie, right before it comes out, we're going to put the old Fast and the Furious on Netflix so people can see it and catch up and then watch.
Or people like me who haven't seen 5 or 6 or 7 is like, you know what? Maybe I will go see the new one and I want to watch it. It benefits Netflix. It benefits... the Fast and the Furious franchise as well.
Right.
I think the bigger thing is, will Disney buy another studio? Probably not, because they got what they wanted out of this deal. But what you probably are going to see is that some of the smaller studios are going to start playing, I don't want to be the one without a dance partner in 10 years. So Paramount is probably looking for someone to join in with. Who is that going to be?
Is it Universal instead of Paramount?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Universal, NBC, Comcast, Universal...
I mean, also the other things you got to think about is that something I don't know if I I haven't read anything about this. I'd be interested in knowing if part of the purchase of Fox is also the Fox lot. Because the Fox lot is an incredibly valuable amount of property on the west side.
Right.
That Disney could basically just dump onto anything, could turn it into condominiums and stuff like that, sell it to a developer, and make a good deal of the money that they're spending to purchase Fox back.
Unfortunately, some of that, one of the things I did read is they haven't mentioned whether they bought the lot as part of the deal, but some of it is historic property. So some of the sound stages may actually be, you may have your condo complex, and when you look out your window, just see a sound stage in the middle of a block because it's historic. It's been made a historic property, and you can't demolish it.
Right.
So, not that they wouldn't do that. And I mean, maybe with all the content, maybe their idea is we can produce it all in house. So we'll keep the lot, and be able to shoot more things.
I mean, I don't know if it, and it's a real inside Hollywood thing about whether they're keeping the lot. But like I'm sure they'd keep it for a while and keep operations going as usual. But I mean, it'd be an interesting conversation for one day whether or not they're going to feel the need to produce outside of that area. And that's another thing that goes with Paramount. Like if Paramount got sold to somebody, then their lot in Hollywood is a valuable piece of real estate. So
Warner Brothers, Warner Brothers and Paramount become one company. Does somebody give up their lot? Because both of them have lots here.
Right, but I'm saying like Warner Brothers would probably be able to handle most of what they're looking to do.
Right.
And with the amount of things that aren't filming in California anymore, there's enough to expand out of the soundstage universe.
Yep. But Paramount also has historic spots on their stages. So the biggest issue with this thing isn't even how, well, one, will it get approved? Because it has to go before the SEC. It does have vertical and horizontal integration. So.
And again, I think that this one, unlike the Time Warner deal, AT&T Time Warner deal, is going to go by a lot smoother because I heard things about how the Trump administration is okay with this one going through.
Well, he made a call.
Yeah.
He made a call to Fox and said, hey, what's going on with Fox News? Oh, you're keeping it? Okay, just wanted to check. All right.
You can do whatever you want. I just wanted to check the Fox.
And again, Disney doesn't do anything unless they know exactly how it's going to happen because Disney is micromanaged within an inch of its life.
Well, it's all about appearances for them, and they can't. Having an embarrassment is not something they're willing to do. So.
Right. Moving on.
Wait. Before we move on,
yeah,
the biggest thing that impacts the Anthem podcast, and then my biggest concern for someone like Roberto, who's an actor. The opportunity for new streaming things is great, and I don't know that the two studios joining causes that big of a problem because opportunities will still be there, but. Our concern, something Corey and I talked about, was little project or production studios like Fox Searchlight going away.
Yeah.
Fox Searchlight has been one of the hugest supporters of when we talk about like the 70s when a lot of the directors you love today, Spielberg, Scorsese, were coming up.
Yeah.
They didn't have Fox Spotlight, Searchlight Pictures, but they had all the studios were basically like that. And
well,
Fox
every little studio, like you would be able to put the things that would go on Fox Searchlight now on like United Artists or
but those don't exist anymore.
Right.
So
or Miramax or something like that.
Searchlight was the modern version of that. And if Disney gets rid of Searchlight, then it's one less opportunity for up-and-coming filmmakers to get a small picture done.
Right.
And it shows a shift towards the existing IP, proven products.
See, but I feel like Disney would keep Searchlight, at least for the time being, but operate it a little bit differently.
Well, maybe.
I mean, because there's success to be found in this market, especially with like A24 and stuff like that, where if somebody feels like that they have the secret sauce to taking indie movies and exposing them to a large audience, I'm sure Disney is like trying to figure it out. The problem is that Disney can't release like a little tiny nothing movie.
They don't do that. That's not their model. And that's some of the concern about Searchlight going away is them looking at it and saying, well, we don't even know what to really do with this. So either we sell it off to
you would
someone
really
else.
have to just keep it and have it run separately. Like you give Searchlight a budget and say, go out and do
Except
Searchlight
for
things.
the 4 executives that were saying if Fox sells to Disney, these 4 people have to come with it. And then the details of the final deal were like, maybe they're not going to come with it at all. So
a couple of them were Murdochs.
Yeah.
Which is like, we're not
going to have that.
We're not having that.
But it's also people who know how to run those businesses.
Yeah.
And when you have Disney who doesn't know how to do it, there's some cause for concern. I think there's also concern on my part about one less studio means less opportunities for writers to get stuff out there. So,
well, I guess that's where all the streaming services are sort of like going to come into play, where they might be more open to the idea of having, you know, a smaller production, creating a smaller production rather than going to into a big studio or a big production. You're not gonna. Basically, what I'm saying is, you're not gonna go to Disney and say, "Hey, I have this idea, this little pilot." You're gonna go to Amazon. You're gonna go to
Netflix.
Apple.
Apple's
gonna be.
Yeah,
but you know what? Moving on to our next subject.
Yes.
We don't know how much of the streaming things are actually going to be around anymore, because you fucking dirtbags in the FCC are the worst ever. And I'd like to back up for just a minute if I could.
That's Corey at OverTheAnthem.com. If anyone at the FCC is listening, Corey at OverTheAnthem.com.
Come at me, bro. Did you see Anonymous doxed Ajit Pai, by the way?
Good.
Good news. Go find it. Anybody who feels a little bit frisky, go find it. The part that really bothers me is the amount of misinformation that's out there about this whole thing.
Yeah, I think we talked about this.
It's a complicated thing to understand what the idea behind net neutrality is. So real quick, before we go any further, let me back up a little bit with sort of a history of how we got here.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, can you, either you or if you don't mind me, because I know we have some viewers. I know we have some viewers that are from like international waters. We have some viewers from Mexico and stuff. Would you mind explaining for those out there that do not know what net neutrality or what this is all about?
So for anybody who doesn't know, essentially what net neutrality means is that all content, regardless of what it is treated equally.
Yes.
And that you couldn't, charge more to go see YouTube or to use streaming services. It won't. The things that are being put out there where it's just like, you're going to pay $7.99 a month for Facebook and $8.99 a month for YouTube and $15
what year
for
was
Twitter
it when
or whatever.
Obama got net neutrality?
So and here's the confusion. The law didn't go into effect until 2015. So everyone's like,
and there was a 2-year. It was only a 2-year term for the net neutrality.
And it was a FCC rule. So it could have been changed at any time. But everyone's looking at it and saying, well, we didn't have this rule until 2015. What's the big deal? Well, the reason that they made the rule in 2015 was because at the beginning of the internet, all of the fathers of the internet said
20 years beforehand.
This is a free and open marketplace, and we should leave it free and clear. And that was a gentleman's agreement that was followed for 20 years.
Not only that, there was actually legislation passed. Nope.
Go ahead.
But there was legislation passed prior to the Obama era net neutrality rules, which had basically basically been set out by Congress that the internet is new and we don't know what is going to happen. And we want to ensure that we don't mess with this and let it build on its own and see what we have.
Right.
So they had agreed essentially on framework for how the internet would be treated and operated that had been in place for the 20 years that had followed before the net neutrality regulations.
But the law didn't have any punishments. It wasn't really a law. It was Congress saying, we don't understand this, so we're going to let it grow and we'll come in later.
But the regulations that were passed there did have enough that you could find legal standing in some of these things. So like when Verizon or AT&T were found guilty of throttling people who had paid the same amount as other people but had gotten lesser service because they had reached a certain limit, the rules that had been set forth in this agreement were the ones that were allowing the Supreme Court to say, no, it's not right for anybody to throttle you if you're paying the price because you are paying for a service regardless of...
So the first of those cases came up in 2006, I think. And again, for the first 20 years of its existence, the internet was basically free and open and everything was fine. And then you see these providers start to press the gentleman's agreement of like, well, we're not going to throttle you based on content. We're going to throttle you based on usage.
Yeah.
And even though you're going to be paying for, and I mean, the complaint that everybody has, we pay for 45 megabytes upload speed at any time. We rarely have 45 megabytes of upload speed.
We pay
at
for
any time.
100. We
Sorry,
barely get 45.
There you go. Yeah. And so we're not really getting the service that we are paying for, but the contract says up to and average speeds may vary and blah, blah, blah. But when they started directly throttling people, not based on content, but based on other things, that's when when the FCC was like, maybe we need to step in here. The first round of them putting out rules was 2008. But nothing got done. And then later they came in and said, okay, well, we're not going to do that. But when Comcast bought Universal, they said, well, now we have the problem of vertical integration, where when you're producing the content and then providing the content, and then the way that content, distribution essentially gets to the person is controlled by one company. We need to enact a protection for the entire industry.
Yeah.
And, Comcast came in and said, listen, there's no way we're going to put these kind of things in place. But NBC Universal was one of the companies who got sued previously about limiting access to things. Or no, Comcast got sued previously. And so they enacted this FCC rule out of protection. And that's all been undone at this point now.
So just to lay it out a little bit more clearly, the people who want net neutrality repeal are telecom companies. AT&T, Verizon, Time Warner, Comcast, all these people.
Yes.
The people who don't want net neutrality are 83% of Americans and streaming services and internet companies and startups and everything like this.
We do not want
we do not want net neutrality repeal.
All right, so just real quick, because I have a few friends here from Mexico that are texting me and saying like they don't really understand the concept. Basically, what this means, not necessarily to you, although it might come to Mexico, so watch out because Mexico
it's already in other countries.
Yes.
I mean Dutch.
Yes. So it might affect you eventually because apparently Mexico always wants to do whatever the U.S. is doing because they think it's cool.
Any country that you hear about having a restrictive access to internet, like China, North Korea, these types of places, all have net neutrality rules.
So that's basically the idea is that
non-net
neutrality. Yeah. So basically the idea is you might get restricted access to certain things. So if you're trying to load up, if you have your internet service, I mean, I'm going to try to think of one in Mexico, Telmex or whatever, just as an example. If that's your service provider and they own some distribution companies trying to get content to you, they might give you a better access or a faster access to that content. Whereas if you want to go into Netflix and consume some of that other content, then might restrict that access to you, making it either slower or you lose the HD quality, or eventually they're going to be charging you to have HD streaming and stuff like that.
The other thing too is that companies can make decisions of how much they're willing to stream just based off of whether or not they want to compete. So like we talked about Disney buying Fox because they want to have a streaming platform that has all the Disney stuff, all the Marvel stuff, all the ESPN stuff, and all the Fox stuff. Great. So it sounds like a wonderful idea.
Yeah.
But if Comcast, NBC Universal doesn't want to compete with Disney and their new streaming platform, they could basically just say to Disney, like, hey, so this new service you're going to launch is going to cost $100 per customer.
Right. Well, no, they can't say it's going to cost $100 per customer. What they could say is, if you want your thing to load in any reasonable rate, you need to upgrade your service with us.
Right.
To and I'm middle Highland.
And I'm saying they're going to charge what would effectively be to Disney $100 per customer, and they're going to say that's ridiculous because we can't charge $100 per customer for this service,
and it had to be more than $100 because then you have to pay for the programming itself.
Yeah.
But then what they can also do is turn around to you, the consumer, and say, if you would like access to these things,
Netflix is going to get a shit ton more expensive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, no. But so Netflix gets more expensive because they have to pay for access. But the consumer may also not only have to pay for a more expensive Netflix, but also pay more expensive rates on their internet service itself. So they can say, hey, to be competitive, we're going to give you 5 gigabytes of upload a month.
Yeah.
That's it. And I know you're thinking about, my phone, that's all I have. It's completely different when you're streaming to your television.
Yeah.
The data is way more dense. So you're going to go through 5 gigabytes in no time. So you're not only paying more for Netflix because Netflix is getting charged, you're also paying more for your connection to the internet.
I have a question for both of you. What do you think are the chances that we could still save net neutrality, the net neutrality rules?
So in this latest episode of None of This Shit Really Matters. Go ahead.
Okay, so essentially, here's where I'd like to start. We have been battling for the internet for a long time, and every single time there has been something out there, whether it be SOPA or CISPA or what was the other one that came and went. They always came up like we're gonna vote on this next week, and it was SOPA, and there was overwhelming support for it, and then the entire world basically got up on their stools and said, don't fucking do this, and we are going to this is the most important issue to us, and if you dare take away the internet from us, then we're going to storm against you, and we're not going to vote for you, and blah 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 blah. And on each one of these occasions, there has been enough public pressure that people have backed down.
Yeah.
The problem is that they keep bringing it up because the telecom companies who keep Congress in business with their campaign donations just want to keep bringing it up, and they want people to have to get up on their stools and scream and shout and call Congress every single day to stop them, until eventually people are so numb to it that they won't do it anymore.
Yep.
So here's the thing: if you have a congressman or a senator who says that they do not support net neutrality regulations, then you have to make a call and you have to tell them, hey, I'm a one-issue voter right now. There are other things that might make me change my mind on voting on you, but this is number one, absolutely for sure. I will not vote for you if you vote to overturn net neutrality regulations.
Which we both did this week.
Yes.
Right? We both called.
Except for no, because it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter because Congress doesn't have to vote on anything.
No, they don't. They can just
They
let
can
it
just
go.
let it go.
But
there is no bill.
But
they don't have to vote.
There are a couple legal avenues that are being extended.
Yes.
There's New York and 18 other states,
including California and Maryland.
Yep, have joined together to sue the FCC.
Yeah.
Over the fact that they did not have an open commenting section, and that the commenting section was rife with inaccuracy.
Yes, and fraud.
Yeah, there's many stories right now about people who find out that their grandparents who died 2 years prior to making a note to the SEC in support of net neutrality.
Yeah.
And many of them who are like long-term Democrats who would hate this and love the internet and didn't want anything to happen to it.
Yeah.
And it just, the whole thing is fucking fishy. It's all being jammed through. None of this should stand. Listen, I understand that it's hard to be as outraged as we all are all the time, but this is
a lack of awareness.
It's not even that. It's just that it's so difficult to explain to somebody who doesn't understand.
It's really not. It's very easy to explain. The problem is none of it matters. And whatever you do right now, call your congressman, call your senators, call the FCC, let them know you're upset, and none of it's going to matter because nothing's going to change. And let's say it goes to the court. What happens when it goes to the court? They overturn it. And it put an injunction on first, and then 7 months later, they overturn it. And it goes back to the FCC. The FCC takes more comments. Let's say they get 1 million comments that say, we want net neutrality. And they get 10 comments that say, here are legitimate comments saying we support an open internet. And they pass a rule. What is that rule going to be?
It's still going to be. It's going to be the same thing.
It's going to be the same thing because they don't have to follow the
They're
comments.
going to continue to try and take the internet away.
Yes.
We're constantly going to have to be at this castle wall.
Until taking the internet away, it's a little extreme.
They're going to take away net neutrality.
They're going to take away the internet that we know and love.
Yes.
Yeah. And I talked to my dad about this, and he was in favor of what they were doing. And I was just like, you do understand that all 3 of your children work in some manner in an industry that requires the internet.
Yeah.
Like, my ability to make a livelihood is going to be affected by this ruling.
He doesn't
care. Brendan's ability to make a livelihood is going to be affected by this ruling.
Yeah.
These are like 100% absolute facts. There is no way you can convince me that the repealing of the net neutrality rules is going to make my life easier to make content, or to be hired on people's projects who are going to be making content.
What are the arguments that they're making for repealing the net neutrality?
So the number one argument I keep hearing back and forth from people who support this, especially in the FCC, like all their comments, all the FCC commissioners, when they voted on this, also gave a summary of why they voted the way, sort of like you would see with the Supreme Court decisions, like what is it, this dissenting and
majority and dissenting and concurring opinions.
Right. So every single one of them put it out, and the people who voted to repeal all said the same thing, which is without net neutrality rules, the internet was able to explode to the height that it was because it didn't have regulation and blah, 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 blah. But they're missing the point. Net neutrality as like a thought has been around for 2 years.
Yeah.
The rules by which we had governed the internet prior to it, which were not as strong as net neutrality because it wasn't being seen as a Title II communication. Utility. It's so hard to explain because the 20-year moratorium we basically had on changes to the internet means that any argument that they're making about how things grew prior to net neutrality is really talking about dial-up. And we are not in the same place with internet anymore.
Well, it's not even saying that. It's just the government failed
to make the last
rule.
time there were no rules was when we couldn't download YouTube. Yeah. Like we couldn't watch YouTube videos even if we wanted
didn't
to.
Exist.
Yeah. But I'm saying even if there was a place where there were videos online, you would spend all day downloading some stupid kid getting kicked in the crotch.
Yeah.
Like it was.
We did that. We downloaded a song, and before you went to bed, you would hit download for the 3.2 megabytes of song.
Yeah.
And when you woke up, maybe if the phone didn't get disconnected or there wasn't an error or something else,
or the person you were taking it from had T1 service,
you'd have that song in the morning before you went to school. But usually not. Usually it'd be like, all right, I'm going to let this run all day and hope that nobody screws it up by the time I get home from school.
Do you remember what Trump's tweet was in regards to net neutrality?
No.
I know I saw it in the news. It was a big deal. Like he was saying that this is the best thing that could happen.
Because libertarians, the Republicans are making a libertarian argument that says no rules are good for growth. That the country is better when we have no rules. But this is also the argument that Reagan put in when he took away regulation in many fields that led to growth in some fields. Yes, that was unrelated, but also led to a lot of problems like gas prices being very high and public utilities basically being able to charge whatever they want, which is why we are okay with our gas prices and our public utility bills now. But in the end, it's this. None of this matters. Yeah, Corey's making a very fantastic argument, and it is true. But in the end, of the people in Congress, 80% of them take money from the telecom industry, Republicans and Democrats. And the average amount that's taken is $400,000 per cycle. So how much did you give to your congressman in the last cycle?
None.
Okay. So that means in this table, we've given $0 to congressmen in the last cycle. Have you given anything to your congressman?
No.
What's your congressman's name?
Martha McSally.
Which congressman? Here or in Arizona? Arizona. Okay. So your congressman. Andy Harris is mine.
It's because I looked it up for Roberto the other day.
I knew it. I had an idea. I just wasn't sure because of the calendar.
You looked it up before you decided to play it off like
not
you knew.
before the podcast.
All right.
Anyway.
How much money did you give to Martha last election cycle?
No, none.
Okay. And I gave none to anyone running against Andy Harris.
Yeah.
That's who was in my district. So we've given $0. And each person who represents us has been given $400,000 on average by the telecom industry. Who are they going to listen to?
This is the thing, though. I am fine. I said it last week, and I didn't mean to. I heard a couple people respond to me on this when I said Democrats need to stop playing by the rules and do whatever the fuck they need to do. And you're just like, wow, this is a drastic change for Corey. And this isn't me saying that I am personally going to do any of these things because I
take up arms.
I don't care. Like Democrats can do whatever they want. I'm not a Democrat, and I'm not trying to.
Technically, you are.
Well, yeah. I mean, as far as registration goes,
sure.
But as far as like ideology goes, I'm not a Democrat.
Right. Nazi. That's his identification.
Rob. The point is that y'all need to decide whether or not there were. So, for example, there were so many times during the Obama administration where he would sort of give the Republicans something to show that I'm a man of good faith and I'm going to lean your way to make things happen. And then when it was time to do something for the Democrats, like Obamacare or the tax relief bill or anything, like trying to bail out Wall Street or any of that shit, they just really stepped on Obama's feet and said, this thing you did for me before doesn't even matter. And fine. So if the Republicans are going to be this way, the Democrats have to be this way too. And if people are going, the thing that people need to realize, people fighting for this right now, much like great fights that have happened before of great injustice against the wealth or the progression of progress, there are going to be times where we lose little fights. There were many times in the course of civil rights that they have lost along the way.
Yep. That
you thought you were making progress, and then all of a sudden some court decision came out and knocked you back down. And then you tried to fight back up, and there was another law that came and knocked you back down. This is still happening today. It's not as bad as...
You're imagining that there's two sides to this. There's not. 80% of the elected representatives have taken money, on average $400,000.
And 80% of the people who are going to decide whether they go back to their job are going to...
What is the greatest?
What I'm saying right now.
Wait.
I'm willing to go outside of Washington and start kicking people in the heads until they turn themselves around. Is anybody else willing to do this? Because I'm willing to stand up for the internet. I'm willing to go to the jail for the internet. Are you guys willing to do the same?
Okay.
If you are, then that's great. Let's all go to Washington and let's start kicking in people's heads.
Whoa. Was that?
Yeah,
Jesus, that's a good job.
Yeah.
I'm glad we found the one thing.
Getting him to
Do not fuck with Corey's porn access, or he will get upset.
He will kick people in the head.
So here's the problem, though. So 80% have taken money.
I did not specify who should be kicked in the head. Right. So I think we're
still safe. Nobody's gonna come knock.
Well, I didn't say names, but I'm just saying that I would love it nothing more if that big Reese's cup would smash into a million pieces in mid kick, like.
So here's the thing. What is the greatest...
or guillotines. Maybe we just all buy a bunch of guillotines and put them on the front lawn
of
Congress.
Literally 2 podcasts ago. Or
yeah.
one podcast.
Oh no, I'm not against it. I'm just saying. I didn't want. I hate the people who are like, Congress just voted to decrease Planned Parenthood's budget by $2,000 this year, and people are like, guillotine. I'm just like, this is step up when it's absolutely necessary. When they're going to take away complete access to the internet as you know it, and this is the fight that we got to stand up for, then you got to do it. Because if you let it go too long, then you can never get back. There was in 2012, they put citizen surveillance in the National Defense Authorization Act.
Right.
It was the first time outside of 9/11 that they had authorized for the wiretapping of American citizens.
Yep.
And nobody wanted to fight that one because it was lumped in with the National Defense spending bill.
Yeah.
Whether or not they were going to fund the military for a year. And it was hard to explain to people. You got to call your congressman and tell them that this one part of the bill is a problem for you. And they got to take it out. You don't care about, what else they do with the spending in the military, but this one thing has to come out.
Only $600 billion.
Yeah.
Whatever. Spend the rest of that. Just don't.
Right. And people didn't fight it. So then that became a thing. And then along the history afterwards, we've just been giving up more and more rights and more. But I'm saying,
talking
like,
about
you gotta
searching and seizuring American citizens, black bagging them and taking them to Guantanamo, secret prisons in Chicago. Corey's fine with all of these things.
I'm not.
If you mess with the internet, the guillotines come out.
I'm not.
That's his line.
That has to become a thing. Can you say that again? Guillotine. What was that again? Guillotine. That has to become a thing.
So here's the thing. What is the greatest congressional overturn in history? Greatest congressional overturn in history. 1994.
Yes.
When 92% of Congress was returned.
Of course.
8% of the people lost their jobs, and it was a watershed moment in American democracy.
Yeah.
So what I'm telling you is none of this shit even fucking matters. Call your congressman, tell them you're on one issue.
They can't go back to office if they get guillotined.
Well, but now you're talking my language. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying if they aren't going to do the right thing, we have to find a way to get through to them. And maybe the way to get through to them is to lop off a lot of heads and say, hey, okay, you're going to run this for this district now.
Yeah.
keep in mind what we did to the last guy.
Yeah.
That is the French Revolution from 1789 to 1809. That is what you want to look for, because they came out of that with a stronger third republic, because they started saying, all right, hey, let's cut off the king's head. Now let's elect a bunch of representatives. Oh, you dragged us into a war we couldn't win? Okay, great. Off with all your heads. Yeah. Now they'll have a whole new group. So you guys remember what we did the last group, right?
The problem is that there's no punishment that any of these people feel. If you think...
It's like Rachel on a drunken binge. There's no punishment.
I mean, if Jason Chaffetz is going to be a complete asshole and then just get out before he gets voted out and then get a cushy job at Fox News, then he never learns.
Yeah.
He makes his money regardless, and he gets to say, "I was a former representative for Utah."
That's what I've been arguing for the last year.
I'm not.
And you've been saying, "Oh, it's so extreme, but now we know the line." No, if you mess with Facebook and Instagram and porn, Corey starts breaking out guillotines.
And Netflix,
that's not where it's coming from. Those things are not where it's coming from.
It happens to be this issue. It just happens to be the net neutrality.
I'm saying this is the one for our generation. This is our one big, huge watershed moment.
Can we still do something about it? I'm saying at this point,
no, we can't. We break out the guillotines or not. That's the only reason. That's the only thing that we have right now, because Congress isn't going to do it. The court system is going to overturn.
The problem is that a lot of these people are going to die on their own swords with this tax bill,
right?
Because there's this.
You think that matters? And again, I'm telling you, none of this matters.
It's gonna be tough for people to get reelected if they vote yes on it.
Alabama taught us an important lesson, which is you have to respect black voters, especially black women voters, because they are a strong voting bloc, and if you get their support, you're going to be fine. But it doesn't matter. None of this matters, because this last year has taught us. 2017, the lesson is you think it's going to be the thing that's going to push it over the edge, and it's not. There's something else. And the tax bill's happening right now, and that's frustrating people. But there'll be something else in a week. There'll be something else after that, 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Robert Mueller's going to get fired at the end of the year, and then that'll be it, and no one will remember the tax bill. That's all we'll be talking about. None of this matters. They're dismantling the republic. They're dismantling the oligarchy.
You're thinking Star Wars right now.
No. I mean, I would have said that in 1915 we had a republic, and then sometime after, in the 1940s and 50s, we've become a federal democracy, a true federal democracy, or a federal republic with a democracy. And slowly but surely, over the course of the 20th century, we became an oligarchy, where a little number of people ruled everything, and from there, we've just moved towards dictatorship. That's it.
Can you full screen that?
Yes.
It looks awfully dark.
Yeah, I think the lights are dying on us. Hang on, wait. Let's get out of studio mode here.
Yeah.
Wow. The lights are dying on us, guys. We've lost the background. Hang on,
Excuse
Corey.
me. You talk about this more.
Okay,
wait,
so...
can we talk about the tax bill?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah,
Tell me about the tax bill.
First of all,
I feel like
here's what I do not understand.
Definitely getting lighter.
Yeah. Here's what I do not understand. In regards to the tax bill, what I have heard in the news, podcast, whatever.
Yes.
I keep hearing a bunch of educated professionals, a bunch of experts in the matter, saying that this is going to affect it's going to affect the entire U.S. population, or the majority of the U.S. population.
Yes.
It's going to affect the regular Joe, the average Joe, basically.
Yeah.
All the experts, all the educated professionals, all the people that we should be listening to are saying that this is bad for the country.
Yes.
And yet, for some reason, there's still people either backing it up or not doing anything about it. This is what I do not understand.
So do you know who it's good for?
For the rich people.
The 500...
For the 1%.
Yeah, but that 1% is made up of the 595 people in Washington who are actually making the bill. The ones who get to vote on it are all millionaires who benefit from it.
But what I'm saying is, how is this not something... Like, I feel like something like this should have already started a revolt. Like, there should be 1,000 people outside of the White House or the Capitol, whatever. Like, that's a problem. Nobody understands
they
what
do.
it's...
No, that's the thing. People do understand, and Americans are upset about it. But what are they going to do?
March up to the White House and start a revolt and
Okay.
carry pitchfork, whatever
Listen.
it takes. But this is the kind of matter that you should be doing something about. And nothing is being done.
Another review that I'm hoping to get out this week, if not, it'll be next week when I have a lot of time to record, and you guys should check it out, is my review of Winter on Fire. It's a story. Whoa, hey there, bright lights. It's a story about the winter
Background's
revolt,
back.
the winter revolt in the Ukraine, and that story is everything. The government of the Ukraine said, we are going to do something. The people said, we don't like it. And what did they do? They literally went and occupied a square in Kiev.
It's still looking dark.
It's because that one too.
Sorry, troubleshooting.
Yeah, technical problems.
Travel shooting. Anyway, so
Should we just bring up the fact that you're using your brand
Oh,
spanking
yes.
new light kit?
Corey's using his new light kit, so there's some growing pains. But okay, I looked directly at the light. Now I have a sunspot. But I think otherwise, there we go.
Merry
There's
Christmas
sunspot.
to Corey.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, Corey.
Enjoy the new lights. So people do care. The average American does care. The average Republican voter is still not happy about the tax bill. This has a 50% disapproval rating. It has an approval rating below the president's approval rating, which is abysmal. But it doesn't matter because the 600 people who are going to vote on it are all millionaires and they all benefit from the bill. Some more than others. Bob Corker was directly bought off by Congress in order to get his vote on the bill. He is a real estate tycoon. And they
Much like Trump.
Yes, and they inserted something in the bill that said, hey, you'll get a big tax break
If you have
you're
a
real
shell
estate
company that doesn't have any employees.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You don't even have to have employees.
Yeah.
You just have to be the owner of a company, of a registered company, to benefit from this.
And Bob Corker, who said, by the way, a week ago that he voted for the bill even though he didn't read it.
About a week ago.
About a week ago. He didn't read the bill and he still voted yes on it. And, if there's something in there that benefits me, that has nothing to do with it. And then it come to find out it was basically written as the Bob Corker amendment because it put in a protection that he and 7 or 8 people in the U.S. will benefit from.
Yeah.
Again, Benjamin Franklin said, when they realize that they can legislate the public treasury, the republic is at an end. The rich people have figured out we give 1% to our congressmen and we get back 50% in return.
Another
See,
quote.
this is-
Quote Rob would like is Mark Twain going, "If voting did anything, they wouldn't let you do it."
Exactly right, and
So,
that's why it doesn't matter.
This is the moment where I feel like all of people, all of American citizens that defend their rights to bear what is it? Oh, I forgot.
The right
Bear
to bear
arms?
The right to bear arms. This is the moment where I feel like they should be loading up them AKs.
But here's
And,
the problem that most of them are supporters of the party that's in power now. So there's a
And they're not getting the. See, here's the thing. I feel like if I would have, I talked about disagreeing with my father on this, on net neutrality. If I had gotten to him early enough and sort of explained to him the situation and got to him before Fox News did,
Yeah.
I'm sure I'd have a much better chance of turning him.
No, they
the
can
problem
convince him.
is that he hears it so much from the people who are directly supporting the news network, which is directly supporting the people who are trying to do it, that it's hard for me to fight that morning, noon, and night, you know?
So there's a fantastic book, and I recommend everyone read it if this subject especially interests you at all. It's called What's the Matter with Kansas? And basically it's a case study in why is Kansas vote Republican so consistently when Republican policies essentially damage everything that their entire livelihoods. So why is that? Well, because Americans are the only people in the world who say, I don't want to tax the rich because I'm poor today, but tomorrow I might be rich. And if I'm rich, I don't want to pay those taxes. So there was a period coming out of the Depression in the 1950s, and I've talked about this a lot, and I hate to be repetitive on the podcast, but where the highest tax rate was 79%.
Yeah.
The American people supported a tax rate on the richest of 79%. Now, why is that?
Because they were all poor, and the people who are rich were holding them down.
Exactly. They were all poor, and we had lost the ideal that any man could really be rich. They said to themselves, I would like to survive.
There was also the number of people who were in that level, though, were an absurd richness that if we were doing it today would be the Forbes top 100, essentially.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like, the people who had the amount to be considered for that 79% tax rate were, like, Rockefellers and Carnegies and J.P. Morgan and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Jeff Bezos of their time.
Yeah.
Bezos of their time. Like, these guys were making obscene amounts of money. And listen, if you don't think that Jeff can afford 79% tax rate, you're crazy. Again, this is coming down to a guy who is worth $100 billion and he makes several $100 million a year personally.
Yeah.
And yes, let's say that he makes $100 million in a year. He's paying $79 million in taxes. And you're like, wow, that's a big number. He's keeping $21 million in of his own of money. That is a ridiculous amount of money to live on. And
the other, just real quick, the other thing that people are forgetting is that, number one, people the amount of like pants on fire lying that's going on nowadays is higher than it's ever been.
Yeah.
You can make the argument that even if they made a tax rate that was 79%, none of these people would even pay it anyway.
True.
Because they're going to be residents of the Dutch Antilles, and it's not really going to matter.
But they can't get their money back here. So that's the thing. It's easy for corporations to build shells and then get their funding back here. They can't get all of it, but they can get some of it. Personal income is almost impossible to get back here.
Yeah.
Because we'll tax you even if you're a citizen of the Dutch Antilles. That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So in the end, they will still block it. But getting back to the point is that every poor Republican voter is one lottery ticket away from being a rich Republican voter. And I don't want to put taxes on rich people because one day I will be rich.
Yeah.
And that logic is what the Republicans feed into you. It's all about, listen, you're not making the decision today, but what if you have to make that decision tomorrow?
Right.
Who do you want to be? And isn't it better to be that now? Like, yes, listen, you go to church every Sunday. Now, you're out drinking at the bar and cheating on your wife and doing a whole bunch of unreligious things on Saturday night, but so's your congressman. So if he's allowed to be super religious, so are you. So when he takes a super religious position, it's okay for you to take that, even though it doesn't really seem to fit with the rest
Yeah,
of...
like sleeping with a 14-year-old.
By the way, that's not an example. He's pointing at me. That's not an example.
No,
of
it's not.
me. Yeah, it's just a general. Yeah.
In general. So we get it. We're in this mindset where people are voting against their interests. The tax bill is disapproved by 50% of Americans, and that's not going to matter. It's going to pass.
86% of Americans.
No, 50% disapproved.
Oh.
Disapproved directly. And 80% of Americans do not have a favorable opinion of it.
Right.
But it will still pass because the 600 people that vote on it will benefit from it.
Just for those of you who don't know, this is supposed to be adding $1 trillion.
1.5 trillion.
1.5 trillion.
$1.5 trillion.
Yes.
To the debt.
Yes.
Well, hold on. To give the counterpoint on this one, I would argue that if growth continues at a completely unsustainable rate,
if we have Chinese kind of growth
that is currently growing at now, then yes, there is a hypothetical plan where the trickle down economics of the system would work. But the problem is that there has been no convincing math that has shown that the trickle down economics, especially of this kind, works.
Right.
And that that growth would continue to sustain itself, especially because, and again, please, every single Republican who is talking about how great the markets are doing right now under Trump.
Yeah.
He has not even set his own budget yet.
Yeah.
Nothing that Trump is doing, nothing that is happening with the economy right now can be attributed to Trump. There could be an argument that maybe trading is a little bit higher or the value of trading is going up because these companies realize that it's open season.
It's about to be, if not. Yeah.
And they're doing things that are keen to investors because they know that the regulations are going to be falling.
Yeah.
But we would still be seeing remarkable growth right now.
Yep.
Regardless of whether or not Trump was in office, because things are just progressing in that manner. We have come out of a downturn and we're on our way up.
By the way,
but the problem is that at some point this bubble is going to burst.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. That's the problem is that this could turn out to be an even worse bubble.
Unsustained growth falls more dramatically.
Did did trickle down economics cause this growth wave?
No.
What caused this growth wave?
I mean, basically what you need to look at is that
it's not even that complex. It's not even that
Go
complex.
ahead. No, feel
It's
free.
consumer side economics.
Yeah.
It's the Democrats believe in consumer side economics, and the Republicans believe in supply side economics. Trickle down economics does not work. It has never worked. Maybe taking away regulation did cause growth in the 80s, but it didn't. Nothing about trickle down economics works. When Pence is in a room and he's like, raise your hand if you're going to keep on workers or spend more because you get a tax break.
Yeah.
And no one agrees with him.
Oh, yeah.
That
By the
is
way-
your number one sign.
By the way, you remember that carrier plant that Trump
yeah.
saved earlier this year? It's in Mexico now.
Gone.
Bye.
Yes.
Yeah,
See
yeah.
ya.
Well, I mean, but to all our people, run out and get a job at Carrier. They're probably well-paying jobs in Mexico. So, I mean, but
all the
in
people
end,
in Indiana who are broke and waiting for their lottery tickets so they become millionaires and don't get
that's-
taxed.
That's the only way that they can beat the tax system. But in the end, none of this really matters because the Republicans are going to vote for whatever they're going to vote for. The supplies, they're going to continue to try trickle-down economics, even though it's been shown that only consumer-side economics works. This bounce back, the first Obama bounce back, which was then killed by problems created under the Bush presidency that he hadn't addressed yet. Basically the entire economy collapsing.
The government couldn't afford itself anymore, and that we are coming dangerously close to defaulting on all our loans.
Which, by the way, was the first tax breaks
Yeah.
in 2003 that everyone said would cost $1 trillion, and the president then said it'll pay for itself in growth. Didn't happen.
Yeah.
Collapsed in 2006.
Oh my
collapsed
God.
in 2008.
That's what I'm saying.
But yeah, so Obama's consumer side economics brought about growth, and then the economy collapsed, and then they did more consumer side economics, and now it's rebounding again. And as soon as we switch back to supply side economics, economic policy, it'll build up to another collapse again. This is just the way that it goes because people don't understand that putting money in the pockets of Americans causes growth. Putting money in the pockets of capitalist pigs does not. By the way, if we're breaking out the guillotines, we also have to break out the red flags, and it's a communist revolution.
I was gonna say no, I'm not doing that. If we're breaking out the guillotines, though, we might as well make a trip up to Wall Street as well.
Yeah,
and take
I'm
care of.
down for that. See, now you're talking
That'll
about a communist
take some time,
revolution.
though.
I'm not,
That'll take
though.
some time, though.
We
I'm
cut
just-
off the capitalist
just-
pig's head. We cut
all
off the
the-
government's head.
I'm saying if we're gonna go that far, we might as well take care of all the loose ends. And I feel like there's a lot of bankers who didn't spend any jail time,
Yes,
and is a
only
little
got
bit
interest.
past due.
Yes.
absolutely true. So we had a couple other topics, but we are running real long. So let's just quick fire.
Like lightning round.
Lightning round.
round.
And really, all I want to say is a big thank you to every person who went out and voted in Alabama. Well, 53% of you. A big thank you to 53% of you who said, let's have a little logic on this election. And probably more importantly, a big thank you to the 25% or so of voting Republicans who said, I'm just going to stay home. I don't want to vote for Doug Jones. And I don't want to vote for Roy Moore, so I'm just going to stay home.
Yeah.
So thank you to all
I
of
got
you.
better things to do than going to the
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for staying home and not voting. Thank you to everyone who went out and voted for Roy or voted for Doug Jones. And for those of you who went out and heard everything that you heard, the allegations being a pedophile, the 25% of people who were like, even if he did it, I don't care. I'm still voting for him. May you burn in hell. And while we're breaking out the guillotines, I think we just need to make a sweep across the entire South.
Against Alabama.
Yeah, it's especially across Alabama, but Mississippi too, and probably Louisiana, Texas, a couple of places. Just start cleaning house in general. That's how the white revolution generally runs. It's just first the leaders, and then the rich, and then all you degenerates who would vote for a pedophile over a guy who put KKK members in jail. Anyway, so a big thank you to Alabama for showing a little bit of sanity in 2017 and ending the
And
year.
it was close. I mean, even
was-
still,
well,
it was
Here's
close.
the thing. Two quick thoughts. I thought about when they were talking about the insurmountable odds against Doug Jones of winning the seat in the first place.
Yeah.
It made me think. What do you think is more unlikely? A Democrat winning a seat in Alabama, a modern day Democrat, because there was a Democrat 20 years ago who is now a Republican.
No. More.
No, but I'm saying there was a senator who was elected as a Democrat.
But he had been a Democrat since the 1960s.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
had switched over to the Republican Party way later than everybody else who
Right.
had
But
already made the move.
Robert
during like
Byrd.
Nixon.
Robert
Yeah.
Byrd, who is a Democrat
Right.
in West Virginia, ain't really a Democrat. Well, he's not in there anymore, but he was a member of the KKK in the 1920s and 30s.
Right.
But he's a Democrat
Yeah. But I'm saying the modern day Democrat in Alabama, do you think it's a bigger feat to win a Senate seat in Alabama as a Democrat or as a Republican in Baltimore City? Because I feel like the Democrat in Baltimore City would have to be even worse than Roy Moore to lose.
See, I don't think so.
See, it's so tough. The numbers are so overwhelming.
The problem is that you don't have a black candidate who's a Republican. If they put out a good Republican candidate in for
Ben
mayor
Carson.
who was black, Ben Carson would win in the Baltimore City mayor election. That's the thing. It's more the Baltimore City election is about who.
See,
you
I don't
are.
think he's serious enough to be.
I think that he could beat Catherine Pugh. I think that the voters would come out and they would have a choice. The problem is you put up rich white guy who doesn't really live in Baltimore but owns a house in Baltimore against Catherine Pugh, who's been serving Baltimore her entire life.
Yeah.
And Stephanie Rawlings Blake. And
who's Pete Rawlings' daughter.
Yeah.
I mean, we know who he is.
There is an entire cast of Baltimore political families, and their younger generation are now the Mosbys are now running.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but if you ran somebody who is of that caliber against them, then maybe you win. But Alabama is just like, we don't vote for Democrats here.
Yeah.
I think Baltimore is about who you like. Ben Carson could run as an independent and win easily. But we know he's a Republican, but he could run as an independent and win easily. Maybe it's a little tougher as a Republican.
See, I don't think he could win. I really don't think he could win.
I think that there is
enough. I feel like the only way you get someone like Carson to win in a situation like that is if he was going up against a deeply flawed candidate who gets even more deeply flawed as you go along. See, if you have like a Sheila Dixon who's like running against him, because Roy Moore, prior to the child sex abuse allegations, was also a notorious racist.
Yes.
And a awful human being who got thrown off the bench because he was too racist in Alabama.
And before the pedophile allegations, what was his lead on Doug Jones?
Oh, it was huge. It was
30 points.
It was insurmountable.
30 points.
Yeah.
So what you're telling me is
though
that
it was 30
would,
points. Just to be fair, for anybody who does look at polling information on this race, it's not easy to do polling on a off year, mid-cycle election taking place near Christmas.
Election, it's very rough. Most likely in a presidential election year, it probably would have been bigger, 40%. But your argument then is it's harder than that to get elected as a Republican in Baltimore City.
Yes.
And I don't think that that's true, because I don't think most of the voters in Baltimore care what the letter is beside your name. They care who you are.
No, I disagree. I think they'd...
Catherine Pugh could have run as a Republican and she would have won. Catherine Pugh could have run as a Republican and she would have won. That's the message that it's less than Baltimore City, and God bless all of you. I love all of you at home, but they're not the most educated voters.
Yeah.
And I don't know that they care about what the party is. What they care about is Catherine Pugh's running against Sheila Dixon.
I think it's straight up and down, because the second that Carson said anything that was undemocratic, he would lose the...
But in a city election, you're not bringing up those issues as often. It's about what's good for the city, and that's why the party doesn't matter as much. But in Alabama, to win an election, you have to be conservative and Christian and a whole bunch of things.
I'd be curious to know what people in Baltimore think.
Okay.
Because I think, so anybody out there who's listening...
Hey, a little special edition of the Baltimore Corner, a short special edition.
This is quickie.
Do you think it is easier to get elected as a Democrat in Alabama? And let's not even make it an Alabama statewide race.
Yeah.
Alabama statewide race as a Democrat or as a Republican in the city of Baltimore.
As mayor.
As mayor, yeah.
Because I mean, there's been Republicans who've won city seats.
Oh yeah, because it's the district of the rich white people. Yes.
The people who live in Ruxton and stuff like that
yes.
have their white representative in City Hall. But like, I think it was an incredible job, insurmountable odds. Everything worked out the way that Doug Jones could have hoped for.
Yeah, it's still too close for
too close.
I'm embarrassed that it was that close. But
if Democrats didn't know before, I would be spending all my time and effort trying to drum up the black vote as much as humanly possible, because it has been shown that when black people come to the polls, it's better for Democrats.
It is.
And
we win races.
yeah.
And hey, how about this? Not just talking to black voters as a block. And listen, we shouldn't treat them as a block, first of all. But,
Right.
But how about when you get in office, maybe enacting some policies that benefit them instead of just guaranteeing that you're going to get their vote every 4 years, because you're not.
Right.
Doug Jones will lose that 98% of black women that he got this time if he doesn't come through for black women. Actually, probably if
He's
just
probably
doesn't
going to
come
lose
through
just regardless.
Well, he doesn't come through for minority women. It'll just be a whole thing. He has an opportunity, though, to make change through the rest of the Trump administration. 6 years. 6 years. Thank God. 6 years. Anyway, the one other thing. Omarosa got kicked out of the White House.
Yeah.
Speaking of black women.
I love this. And we'll just make this real quick. We should say allegedly Omarosa got kicked out of the White House.
Allegedly.
But here's the point I was trying to make. The story was, or as it's been told, is that Trump said Omarosa is out. John Kelly told Omarosa
While he was hiding in the West Wing of the...
Well, not hiding in the residence.
Yeah, the residence. He went upstairs to the residence so he would avoid, because although he's famous for telling people you're fired, he didn't want to have to tell her she was fired.
So he's up in the residence in the West Wing. John Kelly tells Omarosa she's fired. Apparently, it turns into a big, huge screaming match.
Allegedly,
yes. Where Omarosa tried to get into the residence to talk to Trump about it. At which point,
knowing that she probably could convince him,
yeah,
he's not going to say to her face, "No, I don't want you here anymore."
Right.
So just got to get to Trump. Get to Trump.
And allegedly, the Secret Service threw her out.
No, escorted her. Threw her out sounds bad. They took her to her office. She collected her things. They didn't leave her side while she was there. Put everything in a box. They go through the box, and then they walk her out. And her pass was taken when she got to the door. So, yeah.
But now everyone's saying, no, Omarosa is finishing out her term, just not in office.
Yes.
She's going to...
she resigned.
Effective January 20th.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
So they could say that, she's still going to be doing things until the 20th. It's like, she's going to be there or... Nope.
Not at the White House.
Not at the White House.
Things to do outside.
She'll be working at home, making the money that she was supposed to until January 20th, and then she'll peacefully go away.
Yeah.
And I'd be interested in hearing the story from her side on that.
I think she gave a statement.
Well, she gave a statement, but she also made cryptic, like, wait till I tell you the whole story kind of thing.
Right.
Like,
so she is like Trump, and why that she probably got along with Trump, a showman. And she said, no, I resigned. There was no blow up. I left of my own accord, and I put in my resignation. And then basically it was like, so that's the entire story that I can tell you right now.
Yeah.
And just like leading on that as soon as
yeah.
she's done, she'll give an exclusive interview for $500,000 and tell the whole true story.
Yeah.
But listen, there are so few female voices in the White House. There are so few minority voices in the White House. And I hate to say it, because I know Omarosa has nothing good to say about black people or minority people.
Yeah.
Or women in general, probably. But at least her voice was there, and at least Trump was hearing it.
Right.
So for what little that mattered, I'm sad to see her go. And maybe it was smart on her part, because maybe she's going to avoid a indictment because she got out. Maybe your first stop out on January 21st should be at the offices of Special Investigator Mueller.
Yeah. Assuming he's not fired by that point.
Yeah. Which will be interesting then to bring up later this week.
By the way, again, just because we've opened the floodgates on the guillotine.
Yes.
There may come a day where we have to discuss that as well in regards to Robert Mueller, especially if he gets fired for these FBI agents who are anti-Trump. Which,
Listen,
by the way, if you're going to fire an FBI agent because he sent a text message to his girlfriend saying Donald Trump is an idiot, then you might as well fire everybody who said Donald Trump is an idiot. Like, I don't know, the Secretary of State.
Yeah. Which I think he tried to, right? Didn't he?
No, he basically he said he put him. He said he was thinking about firing him, just to sort of like make it a little bit uneasy for him.
He said something like, "Oh, well, he's there."
We'll see. We'll see how long he does this.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, people all across the world who are trying to communicate with the U.S. State Department and think that the guy up top is going to lose his job any day now, are less likely to help us out.
Yeah. Because we don't know who we're going to be negotiating with tomorrow.
Yeah. So why start negotiations today when there could be a new guy tomorrow?
So here's my statement overall on that. Again, I've seen the things like, if they fire Mueller, we're going to protest. Listen, you idiots. I love that you're politically active. I love that you are feeling it like that. But the protest is nothing. Nothing. If you are not willing to do more than go out and walk around and
holding a sign,
not even that, because Corey and I have talked about it's not going to stay walking and holding a sign. It's going to
turns into a dance party,
drum circle dance party. If that's what you want to do when Robert Mueller gets fired, when the democracy itself begins to collapse on itself.
Listen, it should be less dance circles and more burning bottles going through windows, more Molotov cocktails.
Please watch Winter on Fire.
It should look more like the Baltimore Uprising than should look like the Women's March, just to
100%.
Yeah.
Watch Winter on Fire, emulate all of that. Realize that the police there police in Ukraine shot people because they were not only protesting, but they were basically building defensive fortifications and building in to stay. And people got shot and people died. If your protest doesn't involve a risk of imminent danger, death, dismemberment, or jail time for a long time, it's not going to do any good. Because when you do the things that bring about those possible consequences, you're doing things that make change. If you're just going to march and have a drum circle and dance around, then all Trump's going to do is hunker down in the West Wing or the residence like he did with Omarosa and wait for
it to pass.
Yeah. So
wait for you to get tired and just go home.
Exactly.
Finish singing and go home.
Finish your singing competition and then go on home. And where it doesn't matter. It's not going to change anything.
But
Mueller's still fired.
That's a problem, though. People are not willing to take the risk. People are not willing to do what would be necessary in order to.
I would like to bring up
maybe we just need to threaten their porn. That's what worked for Corey. So.
Yeah. Right.
I would like to bring up an old adage that's been I've heard many times back home in Baltimore.
Okay.
They can't arrest all of us.
Yes.
Exactly.
If there's a million people out in front with guillotines, they can't arrest all of us.
Well, they probably wouldn't arrest any of you. But.
And at a certain point, I'm sure that the people who get all amped up for getting to the point where there's guillotines would also get amped up to start open air combat with police officers.
Actually, that reminds me of something I can't remember the name.
I'm just saying that part of the reason why I've always spoken of the slippery slope is because at some point you get here. Yeah. At some point you decide, you know what? Fuck these guys. And then it's time to make that move, that unbreakable move. You cross the line that you can't cross back over.
Yeah.
And everyone's line is different, essentially.
Right. Corey, mine is any impact on constitutional rights. Corey's is, you mean my porn's not going to download it on time?
I hate that you're making
that connection.
Yeah, I never. I'm so little on the porn.
The whole.
Well, I mean, it's not really. That's not really here nor there.
The whole they can't arrest us all. Kind of reminds me of this. I can't remember the name or place or anything, but it was just right after a shooting in a school or something like that, and I believe it was the sheriff or somebody, either I don't think it was a politician. I think it was the sheriff or something, in an interview, and there were, he was talking about how all this dangerous situations, what do you need to do, and he literally said in the interview, or somebody asked him what should we do or what should be the MO, and he literally said, if you're in a school or in a public place where there's a lot of people and you see a gunman, you see somebody with a gun shooting at people, don't run,
charge him.
Yeah. As many as you can. Yes, somebody might get shot. Yes, somebody might even get killed. But having one person die out of 20 that are charging the person with the gun, instead of having the 20 people that are running and just him having played target practice with them.
But you're asking people to be brave. And again, I've been asking people to be brave for 5 years. I wrote a book about people who go out and be brave. The Movement Insurrection. It's available on Amazon.
Ruff's books.
And Movement Insurgency, also available on Amazon. Yeah, so all of those things. But then Corey's right. Everybody has their own point. And my point was, my Rubicon was passed under the Obama administration. And I've been saying this for 5, 6, 7 years now. some people have different points, and some people's points haven't been reached yet. And we have a friend who lives in Frederick who is very politically active, and her point will never be reached. She will never, ever see violence as suitable. It will just never be there. And they will lock her in a train car and send her to a camp in Texas, and she will still be saying, well, you know, I guess we're just going to have a hunger strike when we get to the camp.
Yeah.
No, that's not how this works. Don't do that. You have to stand up for yourself, and sometimes you have to fight, and sometimes that line has to be when your really, really disturbing pornography gets threatened, and that's where Corey's line is.
Well, I think that we should all check after this episode for how much guillotines are selling for on Amazon.
Get in early. It's like Bitcoin.
And if you're going to do that, you might as well click through the link at ohtheanthem.com, Corey at ohtheanthem.com, Oh The Anthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line 443-219-7595.
What's that number again?
443-219-7595. And
now in español,
Hold on.
443-219-7595.
And make sure that you check me out at LegendsCV5 on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and my website, CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, which will have a new blog post up this week.
As soon as you finish my cover for my book, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Roberto, would you like to
go ahead.
What am I?
tell people where they can find you?
Yeah. They can find me on social media, most of my social media at RTO AZN. That's my Instagram, my Twitter, and I'm working on the website soon, so that'll come up. But in the meantime, you can find me at RTOAZN. Sorry.
On all the social media.
On all the social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
And of course, you can find me on all your social networks at Robert N. Cheek.
All your social networks?
All of them. Every single one of them. Branding across all platforms. Not only that, but you can check me out my website, robertncheek.com, where you'll find links to my political blog, foundingthefuture.us, the news website, adeaddrive.com, and the books, which are available on Amazon.
Barrows Books.
Compra los libros de Rob.
So
Can you do that one more time, just a little bit slower, because some of our podcast people listen to this on 1.5.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead.
Barrows Books.
Compra los libros de Rob.
There we go.
Yeah. It's totally not going to make any difference.
Nope. Also, as a reminder, you can check out my YouTube channel as well, where the new videos for the reviews will be up there. I got a review right now for Netflix original, but I'm going to hopefully get up the review for Winter on Fire, which is about the Ukraine this week, as well as my conspiracy theory about George Lucas writing Star Wars based on the Iranian Revolution. So make sure you check that out. And we are coming up on the end of the wait, is this our Christmas episode?
Yes, it is. We were just talking about that before the...
Oh, that's right. This is the last one before Christmas.
Yeah, so have a Merry Christmas, everybody. And if it comes time for you to, if you get those Amazon gift cards over Christmas, the best place you can go is to ohtheanthem.com. Click through the Amazon link. It'll cost, if you have a $25 Amazon card, you will still get $25 to spend at Amazon. But as a thank you for sending you there, they'll give us a little kickback. So it's the best way that you can help support the podcast. It costs you nothing extra, but it'll help us keep the lights on. Maybe a little brighter.
If you actually record the next episode on Saturday, when you actually record it, that will be the 23rd.
Well, we'll have to do it before Saturday because
that's right. Yeah, because I'm out. So next week will be our Christmas episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this one goes up tomorrow.
Christmassy.
So while you're listening to this,
the live stream will be prior to Christmas,
yes,
but the
episode will be on Christmas Day, or be on the 26th. So if you're getting those last minute gifts for your friends, make sure you go through the Amazon link at ohtheanthem.com. Again, best way to support the podcast. Make sure you do that. So I think that's everything.
Well, I think we've done good here today.
We've done something. I don't know if it's good, but as always, you're listening to the Oh The Anthem podcast, part of the Oh The Anthem digital network.
And thank you for having me. Yeah, sorry, I forgot to say. Thank you all for having me today.
You've interrupted my flow.
Now I don't even know where we were.
Take two.
I think we've done good here today.
We've done something. I don't know if it's good. But as always, you're listening to the Oh The Anthem podcast, part of the Oh The Anthem digital network. For Corey and Roberto, this is Rob. Have a great week, everybody. Use take two.
Yeah. Now it's time to go for a drive.
Where are you driving to?